key to success for any fantasy hockey GM is knowing how to maneuver the trade market. Today, on the latest edition of your daily source for fantasy hockey news, Steele and I are breaking down some mock trade scenarios that are going to help you dominate your league. That and big time bets. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fantasy fanatics, hockey heads, and degenerate gamblers, you know what it is. It's the Thursday edition of your show. This is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Salute, shout out, and much love to the everydayers for holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers that place a $5 wager can get started with $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Didn't butcher it on today's episode, Mr. Roden, but you know what? There's a lot more time left to go in the show. But I think what we're doing today is taking a look at some mock trade scenarios. This is going to allow us to have a little look at what it would take to acquire certain players. And I think 1 month into the season, there are a lot of GMs out there looking at the waiver wire, looking at ways to tinker with the roster. And I think that's the angle we're going to take with today. We're obviously going to get to big time bets. Juicy Thursday night, 12-game betting board. Steele and I are going to have 3 picks ready to roll. I think I have to turn it over to you, Steele. It's almost like we've done a little flip-flop, no pun intended. I started hot, went cool, you started cool, and now you're red hot. So I'm excited to get there, but I know you've been much more active on this trade market. You're looking at a number of different scenarios. I got a keeper dynasty angle to potentially cover. Over to you, my friend. I know some of these trades coming your way are a bit of a joke, but they still have to be discussed.
Yeah, we have to discuss them, and that's what we're trying to highlight on today's episode. Obviously, like Flip said, there's multiple ways to create a successful team in your fantasy hockey league. Obviously, number one is drafting smart, drafting some great players throughout the entire NHL fantasy hockey draft. Late stages obviously important. Obviously, looking towards the waiver wire on a regular basis is another way to create a very strong team on going into your weekly matchups. But one of the ones that we probably don't talk enough about the most are these potential trades in your fantasy league. And we've got some mock trades. We've got some trades that were sent in to us from listeners out there, from some friends, as well as we're going to work on a trade that I've been working on for the last couple of days. We're going to take a look into that. Number one, though, like Flip said, you're going to have some people that just do not know how to make a trade or negotiate. And I've been having some pretty egregiously bad trades offered my way. I'm not going to put this guy on blast. I'm not going to say his name, but I sent these to Flip. He knows what we're looking at right now. When somebody sends me, I believe it was Lawson Krause, Jamie Benn, and Noah Dobson for William Nylander, Jason Robertson, and Valeri Nichushkin.
Come on.
There's just no way in hell that this person knows what they're doing. And sometimes it's hard. You're going to find those people. It's very hard to negotiate. But yeah, some pretty bad trades I've been receiving so far. I'm working on a trade to bolster up my blue line. However, let's look at one of these mock trades that one of my friends, one of our listeners have sent in. And he was looking for our advice, Flip. He's looking to acquire Austin Matthews, and in return, he has to give up Philip Forsberg and Rasmus Dahlin. Now, my initial thoughts, obviously, that is a lot to give up for a guy a lot to give up for Austin Matthews. Clearly, all 3 of those players are fantasy hockey studs. You're going to get a lot of offensive production from both Matthews and Forsberg. Rasmus Dahlin, he's going to fill out those peripherals that I love and I hold near and dear to my heart. So what are your initial thoughts when somebody offers you Austin Matthews for Philip Forsberg and Rasmus Dahlin in return?
I think number one, this is one of those angles that a lot of people are looking into. And you and I have spoken about struggling players, and Austin Matthews is held to a whole other level of expectations. But I think this is perhaps someone trying to pry Austin Matthews away from a somewhat of a slow start. Even with that slow start, and my angle would be on this twofold. Number one, yes, Austin Matthews level, it's a bit of a slow start, but the other angle is Rasmus Dahlin and Philip Forsberg for Matthews. Even if Matthews was clicking at the rate that he was to start last year, I think you mentioned back-to-back hat tricks to start the year. He was clearly on another level then. And this is taking nothing away from 34. To me, there's just too much value in Dahlin and in Forsberg. So I think for me, I'd be sticking to the route of leaning towards those two players. However, given what we've seen from 34, and actually at times this season from the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can't help but feel that we're not even scratching the surface yet on 34. But also at this time of year, Steele, going to sniff around that trade market. And I wanted to just touch on those kind of crazy offers that you were put forth. You have to really pick and choose, because there are people out there that want to waste your time and just throw whatever at the board. Austin Matthews for Dahlin and Forsberg for me is not a deal that I would do. So to give you a really long answer, it's that I think the Nashville Predators, as much as Trotz is talking about blowing it up, I still like Philip Forsberg this year, and Dahlin's cooking right now. So I would say no for now, but obviously an enticing trade. And you're on mute again. I like it.
I got it.
There he is.
Yeah, initial thoughts. Clearly just a lot of lost value. Again, you're getting Austin Matthews in return, but you're losing a tremendous amount of value offensively and just, again, categorical leagues.
That's
losing
it, yeah.
Forsberg and Rasmus Dahlin. I think if there was to be another piece into the puzzle coming back with Austin Matthews, maybe a guy on
Most
a lower
definitely.
tier level. Again, I'm just throwing a name out there, like maybe like Mason McTavish or a Troy Terry, for example. I think if that were coming back potentially with the Austin Matthews, just to add a solid piece in there as well, 2 for 2. It's always kind of hard to get those 2-for-1 deals, especially with players of that caliber. So I told him no immediately. I wouldn't trade Forsberg and Dahlin as much as obviously as Leafs fans, we like Austin Matthews.
Most definitely. Look, I appreciate that, because sometimes, Steele, they pluck on the heartstrings. People go out there, they know your allegiances, right? In your fantasy leagues, especially if you're doing it with family and friends, they know some of the, hey, late in the night, I've had a few wobbly, pop-infused decisions, Steele, and you don't want to be waking up and going, uh-oh, I made a mistake. Don't wake up tomorrow and miss another episode. Tap into the pod Monday to Friday. We are here every single week to help you get that paper, bets, NHL news, and fantasy hockey takes. 30 minutes in and out every single day. Today's episode, we're keeping it short and sweet, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Don't miss a single event in your area. Download the Gametime app right now and be buying tickets for comedy, theater, sports, and of course, live music. Steele and I love using the Gametime app. Super easy to use, and it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets right now. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to take the NFL action by storm with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $5 wagers paid out at $150 in bonus bets if that wager wins. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like Steele and I tend to do, you can check out latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more in the exact same spot you're placing your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Flip, real quick before we try to make a potential trade in my keeper league. Some of these other trades, again, in my opinion, just...
And I do have a question I wanted to pose to you as well, not to interject.
Course.
So you hit me with that, and then I got a little overall hockey question for you that I think
overall hockey question. We'll come back with that, right? Yeah, but I was, again, looking at some of these trades I was proposed by this person in my fantasy league. Again, he sent that one that I said earlier, but returned it with Jamie Benn, Noah Dobson, and Lawson Krause for my Jack Hughes, Ratko Gudas, and Valerian Nichushkin. Again, out there in no man's land. Not a question that I was not even close to accepting this. I couldn't hit no faster than I did. He came back once again. Elias Pettersson, Noah Dobson, Jamie Benn. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Connor McDavid, Tom Wilson, and Ratko Gudas in return. I don't think so. This is a keeper league. There's no chance I'm giving up Connor McDavid unless I'm getting some high-end players. And right now, Pettersson, Dobson, and Benn, they're just not there.
That's obviously a little bit more intriguing.
A lot better than what I was originally getting.
And that's, I think, what sometimes happens in fantasy hockey. And I think that's probably when I thought about, doing notes for today's show is when you look at trade options, really don't go to your first reaction. And it's kind of like the same saying of never accept the first offer in business. Never accept that first offer in fantasy hockey trades. Have a little thought, take a look at it, and definitely give another counter offer. So I totally appreciate it. So, look, Connor McDavid's back in a big way. I'm not parting with Connor McDavid. That right there is a full stop. Also, Nichushkin is skating again for the Colorado Avalanche. So that's not happening.
He could return next week against the Washington Capitals on the 13th.
And they're scoring goals. So speaking of which, I just want to hit you with this little sidebar. And I mentioned it off air, but I think I'd like to bring it up before we get too far out of this. Carolina, first in the Metro Division with 18 points, cooking. I believe they are 9-1-0. Yes, they are, with 7 straight wins. The Los Angeles Kings, first in the Pacific, 2 straight wins, 7-2-1. Who are you buying into more? And I think the obvious answer is clear. But hit me with your take on which streak do you think is more of a situation where we can buy into this team? You liking the Kings? You liking Carolina? Because I think both right now, fantasy-wise, you got to be trying to get a piece of either of these squads.
Yeah, and just like we said the other day when we did our waiver wires, they brought Quinton Byfield down to the third line. He pots his first goal of the season. Warren Fogle got on the scoreboard. Laferriere got 2 assists in that matchup last game as well. So things offensively for both of these clubs have been amazing. I'm buying into what the Carolina Hurricanes are doing. They lost a lot in this offseason. Obviously, they lose Jake Gensel after acquiring him from the trade deadline. They lose Brady Shea, Pesci, a couple of those guys. You don't exactly know what's going on with Martin Necas at the time. Now look what he's doing again. I'm buying into the Carolina Hurricanes. Their defensive group is still as sound as it's ever been. Dmitry Orlov has been a huge surprise offensively with this group. Shane Gostisbehere getting the power play one time. Brent Burns, again, I talked about him not producing as much. He had 2 apples in the last game for the Hurricanes. That top 6 forward group right now, Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, we're still not seeing the tip of the iceberg with what they're capable of doing, but they've still been so good for this Hurricanes club. I'm buying into them. Obviously, Pyotr Kochetkov hasn't been the best since Frederik Andersen has gone down, but he's still doing his job, and they're securing the wins in the meantime. So they've been one of the clubs, the hottest clubs right there with the Kings.
I want to turn it right back over to you. I appreciate that breakdown big time. When these teams go streaking, you got to try and get a piece, even in the short term. I'm with you big time. Also, I brought this up multiple points last year. The Carolina Hurricanes led the NHL in shots against per game, somewhere around 25-26. Rob Brindamore, great coach, very good blue line. This year, Steele, how about they're leading it once again, but with even less shots against per game? 23.5 shots against per game being allowed right now by this Carolina Hurricanes team. Yes, question marks. Yes, we're not ready to write them in as the Stanley Cup champions. Not even close.
No.
But they are once again proving that, at least in the regular season, a force to be reckoned with. Over to you, though. Let's look at another trade, and then let's wrap this bad boy up with bets.
Yeah, real quick, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to get my keeper league with my boys back from Stouffville back up on the screen.
Shout
I'm
out
going
to
to let everyone know.
One time.
Shout out to Stowe Vegas back there. We get after it. But yeah, we're going to break down a trade that I'm potentially trying to get done. in this keeper league. And if you're looking on YouTube right now, I'll mention it's a big team. We had 25 rounds. It's a massive team. Massive team for a 10-team league. So real quickly, Tage Thompson, Tim Stutzla, Anton Lundell, Robertson, Gensel, Keller, Tippett, Tuck, Niederreiter. We're looking at the defensemen. So, I'll just stop right there. We're looking at the defensemen. That's where I'm trying to upgrade my team right now, because I went offensive heavy and then did the 0G strategy, took the goaltenders later in the round. Right now, my defensive group, Mackenzie Weegar, who I love. He's filling out the peripherals. Darnell Nurse, he's okay, still filling out those peripherals I love. John Carlson, Eric Carlson, Bowen Byram, and then I did just drop Philip Broberg for Damon Severson, and then I have Ratko Gudas on the bench. So those are the defensemen I'm rocking with right now. The thing about this league, and that's why I'm trying to make a trade, is it's a categorical league, but we have a category for defensive points. So I have been struggling in this category in pretty much all my ESPN leagues that has this in the format. I'm losing on a weekly basis in my defensive point category, and I need some help. So I've been talking with one of my buddies. I'm looking at his team right now, and this is his team right here, and these are his defensemen. Quinn Hughes, Jacob Trouba, Brent Burns, Luke Hughes, Seth Jones, Brendan Dillon, Alex Pietrangelo, Maurice Seider, and Braden McNabb. So he has a lot of defensemen to go after. He's made it very clear that Quinn Hughes, Maurice Seider are not going anywhere. So the only available player I'm really looking at is Alex Pietrangelo. However, he wants Jason Robertson in return. And obviously, he's going to add a little bit more on his side coming back towards me. But again, he wants Jason Robertson. He needs some goal scoring. I need some help on the blue line. I need some help coming up with a trade that's obviously fair for both sides. But what would I even add in there with Alex Pietrangelo looking at this team?
This is a really interesting situation, Steele, and I feel like he's already kind of looking at your squad, perhaps, and now this is really not going to help you because you got it on the internet for official reasons. And knowing that you do need some help on the blue line, I really actually like your team. I also need to sidebar say I have never seen this many players on one team.
It's insane.
I don't know what kind of format you guys are working with. I got to talk to the commish in this league.
It's our first year doing a keeper league. He wanted 25 players, so we're getting after it. But it was definitely a long draft.
And if you don't mind, because my eyes are deceiving me, can you run back the D-men that he does have on his team right now? Quick time, if you don't mind.
Real quick, Quinn Hughes, Jacob Trouba, Brent Burns, Luke Hughes, Seth Jones, Brendan Dillon, Maurice Seider, Alex Pietrangelo.
Yeah, I understand your willingness to want to target Pietrangelo, but if he is already, and that's with the angle that I think you're pursuing right now, and I totally respect that. I might, though, looking at his team and also looking at the angle I just mentioned of him knowing you need a D-man, I might be willing to take a risk on Luke Hughes. And I understand that where he's positioned right now on that third pairing, playing with Brett Pesce, it's not super sexy. And him coming off of the injury and a slow start, I get it. But I think you're playing the long game here. And I don't know where you're situated in the league standings, but I think your team then is worth taking a little risk. And I would try and package this situation. I would try and package Luke Hughes and perhaps maybe a forward and try and detract the attention of your blue line needs away from this GM. And I know that's kind of getting even extra spicy, but I don't want you to overpay, even if you are in last place, because someone thinks they have you in the vice grip. Never just give in to another GM just because of the position you're in. And I know you know this, Steele. I'm speaking to the listeners, and I know some of the listeners know this too. If you're dealing from a position of weakness, it's going to take even more creativity and sometimes packaging players together, making it more than about the need that you have. That can really pay off in a big way. So I would maybe look at another name, Steele. Maybe if you are going to go at Pietrangelo, package in a forward, take a little bit of the attention away from the main reason you're making this move. I know that's easier said than done, and I know that's a lot on the plate, but that's what I would do in this situation because you don't want to get exploited because there's a lot of time left in the season. So that's my angle on this one.
Yeah, the thing, real quickly before we get to big time bets, the thing with this as well is, again, I'm willing to give up Jason Robertson. I was hoping to trade a right winger position over a left winger. Because again, I have Valeri Nichushkin coming back off the IR next week. He's listed as a right winger. And right now I have William Nylander, Alex Tuch, Owen Tippett, and those guys, Nino Niederreiter. So I was hoping to potentially trade Alex Tuch, who's, again, 4 goals, 11 points. He's +6. He's filling out those peripheral categories pretty nicely. I was hoping to get Alex Tuch instead of Jason Robertson. As I agree. Bring back, again, I think if it's Alex Tuch for Pietrangelo, that's actually a pretty fair deal.
I do that one, yep.
I don't know if he wants a right winger, if he needs a right winger. Just looking at his team overall, I think he was pretty set on that side. Lucas Raymond, Dylan Gunther, Nick Schmaltz. But yeah, he could use some help on the left wing side. I was hoping to keep Jason Robertson, but it's a work in progress. And again, that's why you have to find someone that you're actually capable negotiating with. Start spitball and throw one trade out there. Don't accept the first one. Kind of go back and forth, meet in the middle ground somewhere where it's fair for both sides. And that's how you get it done. So I'll have to keep working on it. Maybe I can get a little bit. Maybe I get Maurice Sider for Jason Robertson, something that's pretty fair. That would be pretty nice. But I'm going to have to work on it. And you're going to have to work on it too if you're trying to bolster up your fantasy hockey team. We're going to come back after the break with big time bets. We're getting after it Thursday night. Flip. The bets are coming in hot, just like this ad read. This episode is also brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to an Indeed data. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. And that's why we show some love and support in return every single episode at the end with big time bets. We're trying to fill up those pockets for everybody out there. We're trying to fill up our own pockets as well. Flip, over to you, my friend. Lots of games on the schedule. What are you looking at right now? And what are you rocking with?
All I got to say is it's been a rough couple of days. And looking at this 12-game betting board, I've been all over the map. I've done my research. I've done my digging. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to go off quick with my 3 picks because I have a parlay here. And Minnesota heads into San Jose, obviously red hot.
Yes, baby.
I know you're going to like this one. And it's not the angle that you might think I'm taking, but I still think you're going to like it. This one screams over to me. Not only have 8 of the last 10 between these two gone over the number, San Jose looking much better squad. Minnesota cooking offensively. I know there's been a couple of blips on the radar where Gustafson's given up a bunch. This one's jumping off the page to me as in over. And when I see 8 out of the last 10 between these two, I'm going to go with it and keep it simple. So the over in the Minnesota San Jose game, if you want to tease it down to 5.5, and I'm going to keep these coming fast and furious. Steele, Calgary into Boston. The Boston Bruins don't look good this year. I'm not even going to come on here and say we're finally correct because we predicted the downfall, even though because we predicted it 3 years in a row, Mr. Rodin. They don't look good going up against Toronto. That's a 4-0 shutty. How about also for the Calgary Flames in their last 3 games? Points in all 3 games for the Flames, including back-to-back wins last year, Steele, against the Bruins on home ice and in Boston. So I like the odds here, and I like the angle. Give me the Calgary Flames plus money on the road as my second pick. I'm going to wrap it up with my lock of the night real quick. The Chicago Blackhawks are on the second night of a back-to-back. They played last night. The Dallas Stars didn't look great over in Finland, but now they've had time to rest, recuperate, and they're hungry, and they're a bit cheesed. So I really like this angle for the Dallas Stars at home. They also have wins in 8 of their last 9 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's wrap it up and keep it tight, simple, and sweet. Dallas at home, not money line, baby. I'm going 10 toes down. Puck line, just like my boy Mr. Roden, the puck line king. Those are my 3 picks. If I get burnt, Steele, I don't even care. I'm riding with those 3 in my lock of the night. Stars on the puck line.
I'm loving the stars on the puck line. I'm loving the over 6.5 in that Wild Sharks game. And why don't we just start right there with the Wild and Sharks game? My first pick, Wild on the puck line against the San Jose Sharks. They have been so good offensively, thanks to that guy, Kirill Kaprizov, which leads me into my second pick. Kaprizov, anytime goal in this matchup against the San Jose Sharks. I'm going to parlay that. I didn't have the over. I have the over 6.5 now. But my lock of the night, we talked about it. We've talked about this season with some of these high-end superstars, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, looking mortal, looking human-like, not really taking over in a game. And I think the same can be said for Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes has not been the man and the player that we've seen him be over the last couple of years, really making those plays in the offensive zone, facilitating, having those multi-point games. I'm looking for Jack Hughes with the New Jersey Devils taking on the Montreal Canadiens. I'm looking at Jack Hughes 2+ points for my lock of the night. He needs a big night. He's gone pointless in his last 2. He needs a big night, and the Montreal Canadiens are a team that can give up many chances in their own zone.
Right for the taking, I'd say, those Montreal Canadiens, Steele. I think Jack Hughes 2+ points for those juicy odds. They're going to catch a little bit of my money as well. Maybe mishmash a couple of these together. I'm feeling it, though. Also, Connor McMichael staying red hot the other night, Steele. I had to throw that out there just because it just went down as we were recording. 8 goals for Connor McMichael. My goodness me. Like in the picks, hope they're just as fire. Let's keep it rolling on tomorrow's episode, and we do have a Saturday special coming up this week for y'all. Some special guests next week. Keep it tapped to the channel for all the latest.
All the latest on your source for fantasy hockey, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod. Make sure it's your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight. We wish you good luck with your weekly matchups, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.